Hello there, this is Vicer. It's been a while, but I'm coming back at you with yet another deck profile. I think Exodia Summon Lock deck is dead, and I haven't been playing much Yu-Gi-Oh! Recently anyway, but I did want to share this. This is the latest thing that I came up with, that I created. It is possibly the worst deck ever built, but is competitive in its own way. I've got some YRP files on YGO Pro of showing this deck in action, and it can be strangely competitive if you get the right setup. A lot of the time you are going to get blown out of the water, but you will be surprised by this deck. It's a very unique idea. Well, not unique idea, but I've put my own unique spin on it. So I'm going to just run through the deck first of all, and then I'll talk you through what it does. So, 2 Necroface, 1 Lava Golem, 1 Raigeki, 1 Day of Peace, 3 Pot of Desires, 3 Card of Demise, 1 Upstart, 1 Terraforming, 2 Gold Sark, 1 Final Countdown, 2 Pot of Duality, 2 Twin Twister, 2 Black Garden, 2 Ajama Trio, 3 Quaking Mirror Force, 1 Torrential Tribute, 2 Imperial Custom, 3 Metal Reflect Slime, 3 Rivalry of Warlords, that one always gets me, 1 Solemn Strike and 3 Dark Bribe. So what does this deck actually do? This is a unique lock deck, and I've called it the Have a Monster Lock. You could just call it Rivalry Lock, or the Warlord Lock, whatever word you can actually pronounce properly. The idea is you give your opponent a monster, ideally a token, through either Ojama Trio or Black Garden, or indeed you can throw up that Lava Golem if necessary. And then you flip up Rivalry of Warlords and you lock them out of the game so that they can't swap off. They can't put another monster down. I'll get the effect that each player can only control one type of monster, send all other face-up monsters they control to the graveyard. So if it's a Black Rose token, it's a plant type, and if it's Ojama Trio, it's a beast type. So a lot of decks are going to be shut down by that because they won't be able to play around that. They won't have many cards in their deck that synergize with either a plant or a beast type. Now, yes, of course, there are ways of getting over it. You can set monsters, you can obviously tribute them, yada yada yada. But if you can get stable, there's enough stall in this deck to actually see you through to your win condition, and the win condition, of course, is Final Countdown. Now, you could play Iron Core of Kokimeru and go with just a more outright stall and just aim to deck out your opponent, but actually this deck doesn't have the same strength of lock as previous lock decks that I've done. It can be gotten around because Rivalry is not as solid a lockdown as a skill drain or a Tyrant's Tirade or a Kaiser Colosseum. There are ways the opponent can play around it, and if you can't throw up a token anyway to their side of the field, or you can't get the monster set up on their side of the field, you can't really throw up Rivalry with much effect, because they get rid of 2 of the 5 monsters they've got on the field. In that case, what you're hoping to do is use the Quaking Mirror Forces to turn your opponent's monsters face down. And ideally, that's what I like to do. Is if they set up 3 monsters, you can they go to attack, you flip Quaking Mirror Force when they attack, and then you throw up Rivalry before they get into main phase 2. Or you can pop a Geometry, then throw a Rivalry before they get into main phase 2. Whatever the case may be. The idea is just to have control of your opponent's side of the board. But it's not that straightforward. So we've got lots of draw power in here. We've got Pot of Desires, and Card of Demise for that draw power. Card of Demise is very iffy because you can draw into things that you actually need to set up your lock. And then of course you have to get rid of them. The problem being, this deck needs some draw power, so Card of Demise actually works quite well. A really good card is in this deck is Necroface, because obviously I need to reset all the cards that I've banished through Pot of Desires. Because at the end of the day, with only 1 card in my deck that I'm going for the win condition and Final Countdown, I can't go toe to toe with my opponent. I've got to be able to get into my lock pieces, get to Final Countdown, and then survive 20 turns, which can be quite iffy with this deck sometimes. So Necroface obviously allows me just to reset everything. The 2 Gold Sark allow for me to gain access to Necroface primarily, but I can also use them to gain access to Final Countdown, Rivalry, or any other of the lock pieces. I usually tend to go for Necroface with Gold Sark. A, because it's an important card for me to get hold of, so I can start burning my Pot of Desires without worrying about it. But B, it's got that nice little effect where you do banish it, and you banish your opponent's top 5, well, your own top 5 of your cards of your deck, but also your opponent's. And I do find it runs a little bit of disruption and can be quite nice. And you might get lucky, and you might banish those like couple of Twin Twisters your opponent's got, or that one card that really fucks with the system. So that's why I play the 2 Gold Sark. So I'm just jumping around a bit. Time is of the essence for me, and I'm just trying to get this out here so you guys can play around with this deck and see for yourselves how it works. And it is quite fun, so do test it out. So obviously Terror is just to get hold of Black Garden. Black Garden's a really quirky card, but works quite nicely. When you summon a monster, it throws up a token on your opponent's side of the field. So if you do throw up Necroface and Black Garden's active, they'll get a token, and then you can always flip up Rivalry and lock them out. But obviously do be careful, because you'll be leaving a monster face up, and they can attack into you and get round it and then play their own game. That's really the point is when you go into lock your opponent, you don't want to be leaving your monsters in attack position, because they'll just crash their tokens into you and get out of it, or they'll just run over you with Golem if you've given them Golem. But Black Garden also works because it's quite a handy stall tool, because even if you're getting battered, halving the attack of your opponent's monsters that are summoned to their side of the field is quite handy, and then at least you've got tokens popping up on your side of the field, so you are taking less damage, so it does help in the stall game to get your pieces together. 2 Duality is standard, so the Terror is standard, Upstart One Day is standard. Raigeki, just because sometimes you do need to wipe their side of the board. 2 Twin Twister, again, they'll sometimes run things that just fuck with your chi and you need to get rid of it. And sometimes actually getting rid of Black Garden or a Rivalry to set up your lock and then re-establish a new Rivalry is quite important as well. So that's why the 2 Twin Twister are there. With all the draw, you tend to be have enough cards that you can afford to discard one as well. As I said, 3 Quakings are really good because you can block up your opponent's board. That's just giving you more chances to lock out your opponent. Torrential, you could flip it out for something else, maybe another Solemn Strike, but I quite like Torrential at the moment. 2 Custom is just there to help secure your Trap Monster and Rivalry. I don't think 3 is particularly viable because the deck itself isn't as viable as previous lock decks. So you don't, and you're not running Scrub Raid either, so there's not as many continuous trap cards that need protecting. 3 Metal Reflect Slime. Now the 3 Metal Reflect Slime, I will caveat and say, is interchangeable with the Quantum Cat in the side deck, and in many ways Quantum Cat is better than Metal Reflect because you can choose Quantum Cat's monster type and attribute, so that it better synergizes what you're trying to do. But let's face it, the only card you're really going to be wanting to throw up at the same time is Necroface. There aren't any rank 4 Fiend monsters, XYZs to go into. So sometimes the extra 800 defense that Metal Reflect offers is better, particularly if you don't have custom. And if you don't have Rivalry, you can go in some quirky rank 10s. Not that these will ever win you the game, and if they do, then fair play. But I like you have some monsters in the rank 10s that are better than the sort of available rank 4s if you go with Quantum Cat. However, I completely would understand and have played Quantum Cat over Metal Reflect Slime myself. It's just at the moment I'm running Metal Reflect Slime. 3 Rivalry. This is the latest card in a series of lockdowns that I've been running. Since Skill Drain, Tyrants and Kaiser Colosseum all have been hit or completely nerfed, there aren't many good lock cards. This is quite good, but it is very conditional, which is why... And so the whole deck's based around this particular card, which is why then we've got that giving your opponent tokens to set everything up. 1 Solemn Strike. Again, you could run 2 into the Torrential. Sometimes their life points are... life points are very, very valuable in this deck because you don't have the same stall to a certain degree as you do in other lock decks I've created, because you don't have Scrub Ray to end the battle phase, and because you're running fewer continuous trap cards in Imperial Custom, your Metal Reflect or Quantum Cats aren't as safe. which is why we run 3 Dark Bribe, because it's Dark Bribe, get over it. Side deck is 1, the 3rd Gold Sark, 2 Lava Golem. I never really play more than the 1 that's in there, and you could argue the 1 Lava in the main deck you actually could get rid of and play something else. I don't know, I found him quite clutch in the odd instance, but more often than not he is wasted. I mean, maybe you could use that Lava Golem spot to run a Compulse or something else. I leave that to you. And the other duality, again, I don't really like running too many dualities because it impacts my special summoning, which I don't do too much of, but when you set up, you have to be able to set up quite quickly, and actually sometimes duality means you can't throw up that Lava Golem when you draw into it, and then if you've played Card of Demise at the same time, then you're really fucked because you can't special summon Lava Golem. Well, you couldn't anyway playing duality anyway, but you see what I'm trying to say. The 3 Quantum Cat as discussed, 2 extra strike, the warning. You could throw in the warning over the Lava Golem, but as described, life points are super valuable in this deck because it doesn't have that ability to hold out as strongly. 2 Instant Fusion, that's to play the Ojama Knight, just because in a strange way it works, being able to throw this card out. That you can clog up 2 of the monster zones, and it just helps you have a bit more control of your opponent's side of the field, but I've not really found it to work super well, just because if Rivalry's in play and you've got Metal Reflect out or Quantum Cat, you really are a little bit limited as to what you can do. But it is a nice idea, and that's why it's in the side deck anyway, or certainly Instant Fusion is. 1 Hand Destruction, Bottomless, and the 3rd Custom. Again, these are just ideas. Hand Destruction, I think there's enough draw, and you're discarding enough cards anyway through Card of Demise and Hand Limit and Twin Twister anyway, so no really need to play that. The side deck, as we said, is 3 Ojama Knight, 1 number 35 Ravenous Tarantula, 1 Sky Palace, 1 Gustav Max, 1 Super Dreadnought, a Super Dimensional Robot Galaxy Destroyer, number 84 Pain Gainer, Crazy Box, Master Key, Honorarch, Heartland Draco, Castell, Utopia, and Utopia the Lightning. Anyway, so I just wanted to throw this out there because it is quite a fun deck, and I do encourage you to play it. It's not as shit as it looks. Just don't expect to run over the meta. But as with all lock decks, if you can establish quite early on, it can frustrate your opponent no end so that they make bad decisions, they make bad plays, and actually if you're there to capitalise on it, and if you can play Final Countdown, Final Countdown always messes with people's minds because you're giving them a clock, you're giving them a time limit to work to. Of course, in this instance, it's the number of turns left available to them, and people do try and rush things and force the issue and can make mistakes as a result. But it is a very, very, very defensive, reactive deck that has to wait for its opportunities. Sometimes you've got to let the opponent build up their board, throw up the Quaking Mirror, and then insta Ojama Trio Rivalry combo just to lock them out. And that can buy you a good couple of turns in which to get more pieces. So it's all about stall and rebuild, and if you can do that, you'll be successful with it. So that's my Have a Monster lock deck. You have a very nice day, and I'll see you again soon.